All right, welcome everyone to Unity Halton Peel. This is July the 9th, already so soon. I'm still trying to figure out where the first 6 months of the year went. And here we are. I'm Wendy Carr. I'm a licensed Unity teacher, and it's my honor and privilege to be your host for today's gathering. So let us just take a moment and remembering that the past is in the past. And we can choose to focus there, or we can choose to focus on the future, or we can allow ourselves permission to just be in this now moment, knowing that whatever needs to be done in the future, whatever we have got left over from the past, we can take care of when we're finished this gathering. But we give ourselves permission to just be in this moment and to have this connection with each other. And I'm so thrilled to see that we've got some international folk who have joined us. So welcome everyone, and whether you're watching live or at a future time. So I like to always kind of recenter myself and bring myself into the now moment and just remind myself why I'm here on this gathering. It's a beautiful day today. I could be out doing something else. And I choose to come together with my family, with my spiritual family, in the oneness. And so let's just take a moment to bring together our mission statement for Unity Halton Peel: to lovingly inspire transformation and be of service to the world. And sometimes we don't know what that looks like, and that's okay. And what I found out, having been at convention in the last little while, is that it looks different for everyone. It looks different for every ministry. It looks different for every Unity leader. Because let's face it, if we were all cookie cutters of the same plan, it would be really boring. And thus, if we can be more like Plato and allow ourselves to be molded and shaped and brought into a space where we are the light of the world, that is our blessing, and that is our gift to the rest of the world. And now I'm going to call on Ruth Ellen to please share the daily word for today.
Good morning. For Sunday, July 9th, 2023, it's about power. I look within and discover my power. Great power lies within me, like a treasure chest full of gold and precious jewels buried in my own backyard. It is so close that I sometimes overlook it, leading me to search near and far, seeking strength and value outside myself. Yet my power is in my potential, a gift for me to discover. I am endowed with wisdom, love, and creativity, gemstones meant to be uncovered and shared with the world. I am rich in my capacity to use these gifts to reach goals and create my life with intentionality. As I think, speak, and behave in accordance with my divine abilities, I share my treasures. I bring into light the hidden parts of myself, knowing my power comes from expressing my best self. And from Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, for we are what he has made us, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand to be our way of life.
Thank you, Ruth Ellen.
You're welcome.
All right. So those of you who were on the call a little early know that I had a mission at convention. My mission, which I chose to accept, was to find us some new music. So I've got an older song that we've used before, and I got a brand new one that I'm really excited about. I've fallen in love with it. So we're going to have two songs this morning.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the heart, I am the hands. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the heart, you are the hands. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the heart, we are the hands. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the heart, I am the hands. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the heart, you are the hands. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the heart, I am the hands.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I had to put in a picture of Unity World headquarters because that's where I was a week ago today. And for those of you who haven't been there, it's our headquarters, it's our home. It's a place I love to go, a place that is very meaningful to me. And it's a symbol for me of how broad and wonderful our movement is in the world. And I'm really becoming aware of it as I get into more around being amongst the people who are outside of the US and Canada, and really understanding that we truly are a worldwide movement that brings people into the greater understanding of spiritual awareness. So just a piece of trivia for you, just because I can. That fountain you see in front of you is longer than a football field, a US football field. It's one of the longest fountains in the Kansas City area. So there we are. So just a little piece of spiritual home for you. And this is a new one for you.
reflected in each shining part. And everywhere I go, I recognize the faces, all of my relations in this one heart. And all I need is already looking through these eyes, nearer than my breathing, closer than hands and feet. We are dreaming together all the gifts of heaven and earth. And so I receive all I can be. This is what I know. We are all connected. The universe reflected in each shining part. Everywhere I go, I recognize the faces, all of my relations in this one heart. All I need is already looking through these eyes, nearer than my breathing, closer than hands and feet. We are dreaming together all the gifts of heaven and earth. And so I receive all I can be. And now I let it go with such appreciation, with sheer exhilaration. Now I set it free. So it is, so be it. When I sing it, I can see it. I welcome us in, and now we begin. Amen. Amen. Wanna sing amen. Sing it together. Amen. Every day I pray. This is what I know. So glad about it. Amen. I'm gonna say amen. Amen. Every day we pray. Every hour,
Amen, indeed. And let's move into our talk. So, for those of you who have been around Unity Halton Peel this year, you know that usually on the first Sunday of the month, I do a talk based on our 12 powers, which is a way of taking spiritual understanding into smaller bites. You know, the story about how do you eat an elephant, which is really, I needed a better description for that. So if anyone has one, please put it in the chat here or on my YouTube channel. I do have the booklet available that I've based this on. If you go to our website and go into the resources page and click on the 12 powers, you can download the booklet free of charge. And it's from 2010. So there's been a few changes in how we language things, our spirituality. And I still think it's one of the best books I've read about how to use these spiritual tools. And it's something that I use in my life, if not on a daily basis, then on a weekly basis. I find sometimes it's too easy to get overwhelmed in how do I be more spiritual? How do I express that more effectively? And sometimes it's just too much to think about. So for those of you who have been with me for the early parts or have seen the other videos I've uploaded, we have covered the first 6 of our 12 powers. Starting at the top, we have faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, and imagination. And as I say, those are 12 of the possible ways of expressing this. Now, I recognize in the unity movement, there is some tension around this because these are the expressions of our co-founder, Charles Fillmore. He felt it necessary to find ways of articulating what he understood our teachings to be, what he understood Jesus was saying in the Gospels. And his wife, Myrtle, who was also a co-founder, she brought so much to the movement, sometimes gets overlooked because she didn't leave as many writings, because she wasn't on the platform doing the Sunday lessons. She was much more focused on the Christ in the center. She was much more focused on the oneness. And so when I'm teaching this material to a class in a classroom setting, I remind people that it can be whichever you choose. It can be somewhere in the middle. You might have a time when you say, Charles, what the heck were you thinking about? I'm going to hang out with Myrtle for a little while and just, until we get to the next power, and then I'll reconsider. But the idea here is to find a way to make it useful for you. One of the key things that Charles and Myrtle were found so important in their understanding of spirituality was the idea of it being practically useful, that it was something you engaged in your life 24/7, not just the few hours while you were sitting on a pew listening to someone else pontificate, for want of a better word. So this month, our power is understanding. Next month, we will have will. Will and understanding live up here in our brain, up in between, and imagination is in the middle there. It's represented by Thomas. Those of you who grew up in a spiritual or religious household may remember the story of doubting Thomas, who said he wouldn't believe Jesus had resurrected until he could put his hands on the wounds. The idea of, as they say in the state of Missouri, it's the show me state. People there, the founding members of that state, needed to be shown, demonstrated, have what they were being told to believe made manifest in a way that they could touch the physicality of it. And as you might have guessed from the backgrounds today, the color is gold. Will next month will be silver. It's very popular 2 powers because of that. So it's the ability to know, perceive, comprehend, and apprehend. And we're in that space of, I don't know about the rest of all y'all, having been in the States, but there are parts of what's going on in the world. I'm just shaking my head going, what the heck? What the fluff? What the fill in your word is going on here? Because I cannot understand a lot of what's going on in the world in a spiritual way. It hurts my brain, is the only way that I can describe it. So an affirmation to take with me as I go through my day is my understanding of truth. Notice the word truth is capitalized. By that we mean spiritual truth, universal truth, eternal truth, those things that transcend not only location, but time and space. So my understanding of truth deepens and directs my life. So in the booklet that I'm using, one of the things that the author has done is provided us with 7 steps. Now, I don't want you to think of them as, linear. As I've said, probably every month that I've been doing this series, it's more like a cha-cha, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Wherever you are is right and perfect. Because sometimes we'll discover metaphysical dust bunnies, and those are beliefs, societal norms, thoughts, ideas that we have carried with us that no longer serve us. We need to let them go. But sometimes, you're so weighted with past understanding, past hurts, past traumas, whatever, that it's hard to move forward. And sometimes you have to do that release work to get to that position where you can move forward. And as I discovered at convention, I still had some spiritual dust bunnies around some things that my partner in a workshop said, "Did you hear yourself?" And I said, "I think so, but tell me what you heard." And what I heard was things that I had been taught as a child. So before I came to Unity when I was 17. Things I had learned in those formative years were still hiding in the recesses of my mind and heart, and I needed to clear them out. So our first potential step is questioning. And for that, we are being willing to actually question what it is we have been taught in the past, what we have believed in the past. Excuse me. What has been part of our mental state of being, our emotional state of being, and our understanding of who we are and why we are here and what is ours to do. And sometimes this is a really heavy part to take. Sometimes it's going to be the hugest step of all of the steps that we're about to take, because it demands that we stop, we take an inventory, to borrow from the 12-step series, and to take that inner inventory. What is it I believe about myself? What is it I believe about my spirituality? What is it I believe about God or the universe or spirit or whatever language I'm choosing to use? And you need to break through those ideas. You need to have that space created for new ideas to come in. You know, as the chefs say, you can't make a good omelet without cracking a few eggs. You can't truly get new ideas unless you are willing to let go of those that will be in opposition. And sometimes you do get that opposition. Sometimes you get what in Unity we call chemicalizing. And by that we mean, think of your old beliefs. Think of everything you've ever believed in your lifetime as a pile of baking soda. You ever pour vinegar over top of it? The vinegar is like the new thoughts coming in, the new ideas coming in, but you got to clean it out. I mean, vinegar, in my opinion, is a great cleanser. And in a spiritual sense, imagining that interaction, and in a physical sense, it can be done very gently. And I encourage you to please be gentle with yourselves to the best of your ability. No blame, shame, or guilt, but acknowledge that, you know, my family had a really strong belief about. My family had a societal norm about. My family had a sense of, this is who we were, this is what we did, this is what we stood for. I'm grateful to be in Canada where we have more than two political parties. I see family members who are struggling because their family has always been part of one party. And right now they're being told that, well, if you're not part of the party, you're not part of the family. And part of me is going, what? Wait. But that's the kind of things people are dealing with in the big picture right now. And I think we're really seeing this as things are coming to the surface for clarification, purification, and just kind of figuring out who we all are on this earth. Our second idea is perception. And this, I get stuck in this one, I have to be honest, because this is where you engage your intellect. This is where you read the books. This is where you listen to the Unity podcast. This is where you go to my YouTube channel and watch me pontificate for hours on end. The growth of putting new ideas into the soil that you've just broken up with the questioning. This is where I get stuck, because this is where my intellect rises up and says, what are you doing? What is this you're believing? How are you serious? Don't you realize that, you know, all those years you were told you were going to hell in the handbasket? And I'm hoping somebody's laughing at that right now, because I heard that so much as a child. And I still have family who believe it about me. So my intellect is arguing with these thoughts from my family around heaven and hell and who's going where and who's going to be with whom for all eternity. And yet, it is the perception, that ability for me to take a book off the shelf. And I came home with a bunch of new ones. So I'm excited to take some time this summer and remind myself of these spiritual principles, remind myself of knowledge I had when I first started in Unity that I've forgotten about because it's been so many years. And just kind of have that brush up over the summer so that when I resume teaching in the fall, I will be fresh. I will be, totally in a better space than I am right now to teach, because my intellect and I will have had some conversations. My intellect and I will have had some conversations about what needs to be let go of. And my intellect will be told, this time, get as many of the dust bunnies as you can, instead of using one of those corn brooms that you think of when you see a witch. Use that high-powered vacuum cleaner to get into all the nooks and crannies and places that the metaphysical dust bunnies hide. 3, deduction. This is where we get into meditation. This is where we take everything that we learned in step 2 and allow it to become a part of who we are. I truly believe that spirituality happens at a cellular level. And my proof for that, I've shared this story before, but I'm going to share it again with a little bit of a different emphasis. When I worked in the court system, we had a live shooter in our courthouse one day. As far as I know, it was the first time in decades that had happened. I was safely behind steel doors in a secure part of the building. I knew I was safe. And in that moment, when the intellect was saying, OMG, is everyone safe on the first floor, or has he made it up higher than the first floor? My instinct, and I call it an instinct because it was like a knee-jerk, my first reaction was to text my husband and say, get praying. I'm safe. I'm secure. I'm sure they'll get him before he gets to my floor, because I was on an upper floor. And I realized after, the crisis had passed and I'd had my little cry of decompression, that was what decades of prayer and meditation had done for me. That my first response was one of prayer and meditation and going within rather than going without and screaming and crying and lying in the fetal position and other things that I could have responded with or reacted with. So deduction is about that state of bringing all of these ideas, having cleansed out the space, bringing the new ideas and bringing them into your space within. And that is such an important part. And what I also have learned is that it goes beyond what the author or the podcaster or the webinar host says. It becomes a personalization. What does this mean to me? Some of you may be familiar with Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth. I've read it, I don't know how many times. I have taught it at least 3 times for academic credit. So I'm very familiar with the book. And there are portions of it that I couldn't remember without looking at the book. There are other aspects that have become so internalized because they are such a part of my personal credo that I have to be careful not to paraphrase, because I realize I'm technically quoting Emily Cady, and it's Wendy's understanding of Emily Cady. So that's where we are as we move. We're coming up to the halfway point of our 7. Now, prophecy, I need to be careful how this word gets understood. I don't mean it in the sense of, okay, in 2030, the following things are going to happen. I mean it in the sense of having an inner knowing. And it's not necessarily about outer things, but just that space of being able to see with spiritual eyes first. Let's say that again. Being able to see with spiritual eyes first. It may not be that, we know what's going to happen in 2030. Where I see this for myself is often I will intuitively know that I need to change lanes, or I will intuitively know that I need to drive down a certain road, and I'll be thinking, my intellect will be going, why are you going this way? And my inner self says, shh, there's something that needs to be done here. I'm not sure what, but I know I need to go this way. I have found more treasures. I have been blessed with more off the path places to explore by being willing to let the intellect go to sleep for a little while and allow my spiritual self to just be the driver. And I use that specifically because I usually don't drive with GPS and I get lost. And it's wonderful because when I get lost on a spiritual travel, I find the most incredible things that aren't on the map, that aren't necessarily on the GPS, or aren't noted as you got to see this place. So prophecy. Maybe, I had this sense that I needed to come home a couple days early. I'm so glad I did, because I got to have dinner with Debbie long before she left to return to where she needs to be right now. I would have missed her if I hadn't come home. And it would have been fine. And it was wonderful to have a connection with her before she left. Compassion. This is where we start to bring in the other powers, the other faculties. Understanding gets tempered with love, with wisdom, with being gentle with yourself, with being aware that we're not perfect. I've always said, if I were perfect, I would be a being of light. I wouldn't have to worry about my hair or what I was wearing, because I would, or even what language I was speaking, because I would just be a being of light. And I invite you to be compassionate with yourself first. I know we're so caught up in being compassionate around other people and how we treat other people. I have learned in the decades I've been in Unity how much importance there is to loving yourself first, to being compassionate with yourself first, for being gentle with yourself first and foremost. So this is where we can also say, both for ourselves and others, I do not blame, I do not shame, I do not guilt. You did the best you could in that moment. And now I'm inviting you to see it a different way and to understand it a different way, and going forward to engage with it in a different way. Number 6, understanding. Spiritual understanding enables you to see clearly in all matters, to receive instant answers to questions, and to provide planning and motivation for action. This is where we get into some of the faculties we haven't talked about, will and zeal being 2 of the main ones. But this is when you can say with confidence, I know that I know that I know that I know, and this is what is mine to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. The final step, which truthfully I'm not sure I've ever made it to, so that's why I say be gentle with yourself, because I dance around in these. I go from one to the other depending on what I'm dealing with. If it's a really solid metaphysical dust bunny that's actually a metaphysical dust rock, I need to take that time to work through it. And so I might fall all the way back to questioning and work my way through these steps again with that specific idea, thought, societal norm, whatever it is that's holding me back. The final level is illumination. When you are so filled with understanding, when you are so at one with understanding, you don't think about it anymore. You don't even check in with your wisdom center necessarily. You just are understanding, and it just flows out of you. And this makes you more able to do things clearly, easily, with a light touch. So our passage here concludes with, Understanding is an activity that will change not only your way of thinking, but also your way of life. There is a spirit in you that has all the answers. Trust it as you proceed in an orderly, harmonious, loving way to unfold this faculty. And that is what I have to say about understanding. And our affirmation again as we move into our time of prayer and meditation. My understanding of truth deepens and directs my life. It shows this photo I took of the new labyrinth as our visual for our understanding. If you haven't walked a labyrinth like this one, it's a very old model, and you work through various lanes, various spaces. There is an older labyrinth, which is somewhat in disrepair right now because this will be their primary one. And what I realized as I was walking the old one was the places where the paint had chipped and I couldn't really see it. I knew from having walked so many labyrinths, I walked this one 4 times while I was at the village. I knew I understood what the pattern was. I didn't have to think intellectually about, do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do I do a 180? I knew within my soul I could probably, to some extent, have walked it with my eyes closed if I had counted steps beforehand. But just this is my image for you of understanding. On the surface, it may look chaotic, but there is an inner knowing that can bring you into that space of being able to see the bigger picture, to understand how all the little parts come together. And with that, let us just bring ourselves into the moment as we were when we opened this session. And bring into our hearts as we gently soften our gaze, going into that space of understanding, both in our head, where the faculty lies, into our hearts, into loving understanding, that part of us that speaks and acts with compassion, that part of us where our wisdom links with our understanding in our solar plexus, and that spot where we say yes, yes, or no, no, or even not now, let me check in again later. And breathing into these spaces, we just allow ourselves to be open and receptive to this faculty of understanding, opening and moving in, through, and as us, giving ourselves permission to unlearn that which needs to be unlearned, as we grow into a greater understanding that it no longer serves us. And why would we pay for extra baggage when we didn't have to? Giving ourselves permission to be lovingly understanding of ourselves for those things that we have carried that no longer serve us, and to love ourselves enough to say, yes, I'm willing to let go. And to move into our wise understanding, to listen to that still small voice that directs and guides us. And as we know this for ourselves, we know this for everyone. We hold the vision for understanding. We hold the vision for loving understanding. We hold the vision for wise understanding for every person on this earth. Knowing that as we move into a greater understanding, as we move closer to illumination, we become a blessing to the world. We become the lighthouse, shining our light out to all, showing that there is a clear path to resolution, to healing, to prosperity, to wholeness. And breathing into this space, we give thanks for this awareness, for this ability to say yes to change, for this ability to inspire and enhance our understanding. And we say together silently, I open myself to spiritual understanding. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. And just a reminder, in case you didn't have a chance to note it when I had this slide up earlier, go to our website, please, and not only get your 12 Powers booklet, but sign up for our newsletter. Drop our prayer chaplain a note, praywithdiane@gmail.com. And if you are so guided, please, and thank you for your financial gifts to our ministry. We are 100% funded by these gifts. And also, while you're in the resources, sign up for our newsletter so you can see what's happening. And as we move into our blessing of our offering, we give thanks for Eden Food for Change, who is our designated recipient of our love offering this month. They are doing great work in the Peel region, and let's just take a moment to bless and appreciate our financial resources, whether it is in currency, in our homes, in our form of transportation, in our ability to share beyond what is necessary for our needs of life, in our ability to bless others through our giving. And so it is. Starting this week, a Bible study group with Cheryl Rogers. Also starting this week, I forgot to put a slide in, is Prosperity with Reverend Rosemary. You can contact me in the chat right now, and I will put a link there. I will put a link on the YouTube post as well. Next Sunday, we welcome back Reverend Barbara, our beloved Rev B, and she's going to be talking about surrender, the path to freedom. And for those of you on YouTube, thank you for being with us today. We love and bless you, and we appreciate you. We hope to see you again soon. For everyone else on the Zoom call, we'll welcome Reverend Mary back in 2 weeks' time. And we'll close out the month with Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons, who is well known to those of you who have been in the Unity movement at the end of the lake for a few years. She used to be at Hamilton. And let us take a moment. Perhaps the greatest understanding, raising children and seeing the world through their eyes and finding their understanding, which may or may not agree with yours. And so let's just take into our hearts our children of our family, our children of our neighborhood and community, children of the world, children and youth of Unity and of the world. We love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way we are. And we give thanks for your understanding and teaching it to us. And as we draw our gathering to a close, let us join together. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. Amen. And we welcome Sue Riley to sing us out.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. us that can't be undone. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one loving family, sharing one sun. I choose love. Peace for our planet is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one choice unites us. Let this be the one. I choose love. I choose love. I choose love.
Have a wonderful week, everybody. Until next time.
Absolutely.